Running a business, starting a business is hard. Starting a business is basically agreeing that you don't know what the heck you're doing. You have no idea how to do it. And even if you've done it 4 or 5 times, you step into the middle of it, you realize, yep, this is all brand new. And it's all about the ability to believe in what you're doing. Do you believe in it? Do you want it? Is there something you really care about? Because we had a co-founder with QSAIC. He was right there with us. He loved what we were doing. About 3 months in, he was like, "This isn't for me. I can't do it." And he left.
And we are live. So, once again, welcome back to the Business Unmasked podcast. My name is Bala, and today we have an interesting guest with us. Today we have Mr. Sapp. He's basically the co founder and CEO at QSAIC, and he's also the president and CEO of Fuel Insights. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. So, Douglas, let's dive right in. Let's give as much value to the audience as possible. So, before we talk about the company, before we talk about your role as a president, your CEO, we like to understand how it all started. So, can you give me an understanding on how exactly your career started right after your undergraduation?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. So I started off life as I went to art school in Columbus, Ohio, and graduated with a degree in something that I didn't really care about, but I just wanted to graduate and get out of school and start working, and immediately reinvented my whole background and who I was, and got a job, and promptly got fired about 5 months later from that job because I really wasn't very good at it. And started freelancing and started building a business. First, that was my first real experience as an entrepreneur. Built a small agency, and then that whole thing transformed into me working at a really large global consultancy. And that led to a pathway where I understood a little bit more about business strategy and where my strengths and weaknesses were. And so I went on to build a couple other things. I launched a toy company, and worked on that for quite a while, and had a e-commerce company that came out of that. Raised a bunch of money for that company. We Between those two businesses, I was running both of them at the same time. Had about 100 people working for me. And ultimately, that led to me moving back into helping a company with a brand strategy firm in Boston that I helped build from. I was employee number five that went in and helped them grow to about 80 or about 40 people, about 500,000 in business to about 8 million a year. And then that led to Fuel Insights, and built that business, and I've had that business up and operating for about 13 years. And then about a year ago, I started the QSAIC offering, which is really just a brand new thing, and pretty excited about all that. So very diverse background, lots of international experience. I've traveled the world 3 or 4 times, opened up distribution networks across the globe, raised millions of dollars in venture capital funds and equity investment, and had just a very, very unique, very diverse background.
Yeah, that's quite a pretty diverse background. I was going through your LinkedIn, and I can see that you're almost a director or a VP or a C-level executive in almost all the companies that you were part of. So it's quite a journey.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's been fascinating, that's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm pretty sure that, like being a startup founder, as much as it looks pretty cool outside, it also comes with its own sets of challenges. So, when we talk about the startup ecosystem, you rightly told that you raised multiple millions of dollars in venture capital funding. What would be, let's say, like 2 to 3 key things that you tell a founder when he's starting up a company, like general advice for founders when they're starting a company?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that kind of come to mind really quickly, and one is understand that when you are building a business, that and and I've built a few. one of the things I think is really critical to understand is that from the time the if you think about the very first dollar that goes out the door, and that includes, you literally sitting thinking about the idea, that's money because your time is valuable. Your time has a dollar value attached to it. From the time you put pen to paper or and you really start thinking about that first idea and sketching it out to the time the first dollar comes in the door in terms of revenues, that span of time, the shorter that span of time is, the better for everybody. Better for you, better for the business by far. And if you can continue to find ways to shorten that time, it's to your advantage. And so with the toy company, for instance, first dollar out would be maybe say in like June of the middle of the year, and we would be designing a product for release maybe for the future, like the next year for Christmas. And so that means we're not shipping for 12 months. Then when we ship, we are if we're not getting paid on a FOB order, a freight on board order based in say Hong Kong or Shenzhen, or we're not getting paid, but we're getting paid direct by the retailer. Well, they may or may not be paying us for another 90 to 120 days. So literally it could be 2 years from the
Mhm.
time you first come up with an idea to the time you see a dollar come back in the door. That's extreme. And so with Fuel Insights, if you compare that, we typically don't start work with a company until we get 40% upfront. So
Mhm.
before we actually, so when it goes to work, like if I'm writing a proposal for somebody, that length of time is typically less than 3 or 4 months to actually see money come in the door. So what it does, it just gives you flexibility and gives you increased control over your decision making in your business.
Understood. That makes a lot of sense. Just a follow-up question to that is, like you are a CEO founder yourself, right? Now this is from a, let's say, graduating student standpoint. A lot of students, they believe that if you want to get into some elite jobs, let's say you want to get into C-level jobs, or like you don't get into C-level jobs, you eventually grow to that roles, but let's say you want to get into extremely competitive spaces like management consulting, or strategy development, so on and so forth. You have to get an MBA from a top 10 school or a top 15 school, something like, let's say you go to Columbia, you go to Yale, you go to Michigan Ross, Carnegie Mellon, some of the top 20 schools in the US. So, you being a CEO or a founder, would you rather prefer a person who has pedigree, or do you hire a person who brings an exceptional skill set? He has all the skill sets required for the job, but he never went to any of these fancy schools. He just knows how to get the job done. How would you approach this situation?
This this might be my favorite question because this is something that I've been an adjunct professor, so I've actually taught in schools. I've helped students, and I still do. I actually go off and I do mentorship for startups as well. I participate in that. And I talk to students. I just literally 2 weeks ago did a review meeting with a bunch of graduating seniors and looked at their work, looked at their resumes, and talked to them about why they're in trouble, right? Like what's going on? Like why would I even consider hiring you at this point? And that conversation it's a passion point for me because I really believe that I agree with you and your premise that for students coming out of school, that there's this perceived easy path of if I just go spend the hundreds of thousands of dollars that are necessary in schooling, and I'm going to get out and get a really successful job, and I'm going to start very high. That competition level though is extremely high, and if you're in programming, if you really say you're an excellent programmer, Google doesn't even ask you anymore if you went to school. Microsoft doesn't ask you if you went to school. It's all about your skill set. It's all
Mm.
about your capabilities. And so I think it's a multifaceted question, but it's really more about um, So I would look at it from my point of view. For if one of my kids came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, what do you think? Do you think I should go to college?" And I would answer them, "Well, what do you want to get out of college? What's your goal?" And if the goal was, "Well, I want to get a really high paying job," I would say, "Well, that's not a great reason to go to school. It's not a great reason to go to school because you can do very, very well as a plumber or an electrician. Go to a trade school. If you really want to make money and have no debt, go to trade school. Learn the trade. Be the best welder you can possibly be." And or if your goal is no, I want to be in the C-suite. I really want to run a company or build a company. I said, well, then what makes you think you have to go to school to do that? And these are true conversations that I've had with my kids, and I've said, if you feel like you need an education in some area, one way or the other, get online, dig around YouTube, find the person who's going to teach you something for free, then figure out whether or not that information is enough to make you be successful or help you get on the pathway, and then figure out if you need to go to college. But beyond that, today colleges are in trouble because universities are in trouble because they're fighting not only this uphill fight of like why are they relevant, other than their names. And you mentioned the names and the brands, right? That's a huge part of why college is relevant. And one last little side story: when our oldest son was going to choose between schools, he was looking at Berklee College of Music in Boston, and the person giving us the tour literally leaned around, like looked around, looked over, and goes, "Hey, don't send your son here. It's too expensive." She said, "Let him do online classes. Take a few. He can put that he went to Berkeley on his resume." And she said, "The only thing people get out of this is that they put Berkeley on the resume and everybody talks to them because they went to Berkeley." And we told our son that. So he took classes as a senior in high school online at Berkeley. And
Mm.
and and today he happens to be a Grammy nominated writer and producer of music, but it doesn't have anything to do with Berkeley, really, frankly. I mean, the whole point is that if you're skilled and you're capable and you're passionate and you can do the job, I hire people. I hire people for that. Your pedigree doesn't. I hired a guy. I'm sorry. Do you have time for one more story?
Please, please, go ahead, go ahead.
I was doing when I had the toy company. I was working with this service firm, and I would show up, and this guy would help me, and he helped me, and he was so diligent. Everything we did, there was never a point in time where the guy looked at me and rolled his eyes or like shrugged his shoulders, and he was just like, I mean, at times he's getting ready to leave, he'd drop his jacket, sit down, and help me. And he always delivered and never complained. And I would say, "Hey, Kevin, is this what you've always dreamed about doing? Is working here at this service place?" And he said, "No." He goes, "I don't know what I really want to do, but I graduated, got a degree in journalism." And I said, "Why don't you come work with me? Come work with me at the toy company. I'll put you involved in every aspect of the business. You'll learn more than you've ever learned in college, and I guarantee you, you'll never lack for a job for the rest of your life." And he was like, "Okay, let's go." And that guy, I hired him, um, sent him off to Hong Kong 3 weeks later. He lived in Hong Kong for a month, never had any experience in the toy business, but he knew how to make things work. And he ended up going on and becoming a senior vice president of another toy company and then ultimately building his own business and selling it. He's done phenomenally well.
Wow, that's quite an inspiring story. The point is, sometimes, having access to the right mentors at the right time is also a blessing. Like in this person's case, you were there at the right time to guide him, to lend him an opportunity, and then he took it forward from there. And yeah, so
Yeah, I think it's a mix, right? Where I'm I'm of the I'm of the mindset that great mentors are extremely helpful, and that's what I try to do with some of the entrepreneurs I work with here in Nashville. But I think a lot of it comes down to something that's inside the person that there's a determination to succeed and a willingness to put in the effort. That is something that is really, really tough to turn somebody into that, right? Like either that's in you or it's not in you. And if it's in you, I can help you make that better. And if it's not in you, I don't know that I can make it work for you.
Absolutely. I mean, there should be an element of that grit inside you to pull it off as well. Totally agree with you. Perfect. Yeah, I mean, also the fact that the Berkeley brand. I mean, most people go to the elite colleges because it also acts as a signaling effect. So if I go to a employer and I give my resume, and the moment they see an Ivy League college, even though they don't know anything about me, they assume that okay, this person has a certain level of caliber if he broke into this or if he got an admission from such an elite university. So many people are willing to take up the debt so that in the long run they can also maybe use that signaling effect and the network maybe to leverage rather than purely learning on it. Also, one of my personal take is it's also in fields like business and tech, wherein college is more optional. But if you want to be a doctor, or let's say you want to be a lawyer, then it's compulsory that you have to go to law school or you have to go to med school. But fortunately, in the world of business and in the world of tech, as you rightly said, Google doesn't care. Amazon doesn't care. They don't care where you went for your undergrad, where you did computer science. They don't even care whether you have a computer science degree. As long as you are an excellent coder, you are up for a software engineering job. And that is the beauty of the world of business and tech.
Yeah, and you're correct in that, there are certain professions that degrees are required for acceptance, and degrees are required to just kind of demonstrate. I think the question is, in some people's cases, like, what does education signify? What does it signify? Because does it signify that you are intelligent, or does it signify that you are persistent? And there's a difference between those two, right? So, what do you call what do you call the person who graduates last in the Harvard School of Medicine's, physician program? You
Harvard,
call them doctor.
doctor,
You call them
exactly.
doctor.
So, yeah,
It doesn't matter that they finished last in their
gotcha.
class, but as long as they were able to take the test appropriately and complete, they were done. But would you want that person who finished last in Harvard treating you? That's the one. That's the question, right? That's the one that you go, well, wait a minute. Like, okay, so all right, well, maybe not, right? Because it becomes a question of like, what's the significance of that education for you personally? For me, it's really it was a showcase of, I disagreed with the way the school I was going to approached a specific discipline. And so I had an argument with my instructor because I thought that thinking skills were much more valuable than hand skills. And I remember saying, like, I can teach somebody how to do this stuff. I can't teach anybody how to use my brain. If I can use my brain better than you, I can always hire you to execute my thoughts. And he argued with me on that. And so that's why I ended up just graduating and leaving school, because it was like graduated just so my parents could say my son has a degree. But it really didn't matter to me because that was it. And as far as law goes, just last week, I spent about an hour reviewing a 13-page professional services agreement that my attorney will review, but I was the one who redlined the whole thing because I've read so many attorney documents that I know what to look for. I know how to read a law brief, and it's just experience at this point, right? So I've got that whole sort of thing rolled up. I wouldn't call myself a lawyer ever, but I do know how to think inside the brain of a lawyer because I've had to do it so often. And it's out of necessity. Otherwise, I'd spend too much money hiring those guys to think for me.
Got it. Makes sense. I think this is a perfect time to ask a follow-up question with regards to AI. AI is penetrating almost every single segment out there. Recently, I think just 2 weeks back, I also heard that AI is going to replace a financial analyst, and JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and all these people, wherein an analyst, what work an analyst had to do for a week, an AI can actually create a DCF model for the same in under, let's say, in just a prompt in under 10 minutes. So the same is going to penetrate in the world of management consulting, as well as, let's talk about the legal field as well. Yes, there has to be an element of human intervention to build trust, because you don't want a AI bot to be representing you on court, at least for the time being. uh, but how much do you think AI is going to penetrate in the world of management consulting and the world of, let's say, legal services? Because most of the, at least the monotonous task, can be automated using AI.
Yeah. Well, I have a particular fondness for this particular topic because with QSAIC, our attempt with QSAIC was really to build a system that was literally 100% AI built and managed and run, literally a hands-off approach. And we tried that and failed. It didn't work. And there's some reasons why it didn't work. So we modified that, and then that didn't work. And so what we did was really kind of examine the whole use of AI. And so we have this philosophy, like we're QSAIC is human powered, AI assisted. And
Hmm.
it is the concept is that there are certain things that are just deterministic that must be done by humans. You have to do them because you have to have your eyes on them to see it, to know for sure whether or not AI is deceiving you, because AI hallucinates, even in the best of circumstances, with the best prompts you can possibly throw at it, with the best possible technology, with all the guardrails, it will still do things that you don't want it to do. And we found that out. And so what we did was we modified our approach to basically allow us to be very human controlled on the elements that are just essential, that must be factual. The analysis component is where AI does come in and is very helpful, does eliminate time, allows us to do, in minutes what it would take people weeks to do, for sure. That's where the financial analyst question that you just posed comes in. Is it going to replace a financial analyst? Um, it's probably going to replace it's probably going to replace some people, yeah, but those people are probably would have been replaced anyway because they weren't essential. Is it going to replace everybody? I don't think so. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see this heavy movement towards AI. People, let's call them the disconnected COO or the disconnected CEO who thinks that or CFO who thinks that we can save money by doing this and we have to kind of show shareholder value and pretend like we're still out in the front edge. What happens is that when those systems don't work effectively the way that you thought they would, you need people in there in those gaps to who know how to read and interpret and understand, who can then correct the problems that AI just threw at you. And the legal services thing is particularly tricky. There's here in the United States, just had there's been, I mean, just in the news, there was an attorney who filed a brief who has this supporting documents and legal citations had AI do it. They were all false. There wasn't one of them that was real. And the judge, as he was reading them, cited the attorney and actually he fined the attorney like $25,000 because he said you filed false briefs with the court. And it was because he didn't do the research to validate that AI exists, or that these documents, these case law existed. It's a it's not that AI is incapable, because AI is certainly very, very, very capable. It's that AI is only capable when really in the hands of someone who's an expert at knowing how to manipulate it and manage it. So is it going to disrupt? Oh, of course, it's already disrupted. It's already changed the world, but it doesn't mean that everybody should go panic. It really means, yeah, I have a very good friend of mine who is a project manager at a major pharmaceutical company, and he's the guy who sets the schedules for how a new drug is going to be built, where it's going to be built, what's the timeline. And his team, leadership team, came to him and said, "Hey, now that we have AI, let's make this go faster." And he was like, Okay, I'll show you what that looks like. And he used AI, built out the roadmap, brought it to the leadership meeting, shared it with them, and they all realized, oh, we can do this, but it falls back to us as leadership for approvals in this process, and that's the bottleneck, and we can't get past this one area. So it doesn't matter if AI was effective or not. It's the only thing AI did was expose where the problem was. The problem was a human problem that still has to be managed, and you can't get past the approvals process. You can't get past the FDA process. You can't get past that stuff, and that's not AI. That's human, and that's a systemic issue. So AI is going to be effective in many, many ways. And in my opinion, I think AI's for me, it's been very, very efficient, very, very helpful when it comes to research. And we give it very clear guidelines about looking at summaries and insights around what we're doing. But it's not going to replace people at the level I think people are hoping it does. Because I think the biggest problem is going to occur is that people are going to discover this makes problems worse.
Got it. Makes sense. Makes sense. Are there any specific AI tools that you use as part of your work on a day-to-day basis?
So we use it well, we have licenses with about six different AI providers and partners. And with Fuel Insights, I have licenses with 10 different engines, I think. And so we use a wide range of tools from, Perplexity to Claude to, ChatGPT, et cetera. So a lot of the ones you'd think of, but we have professional accounts with all of them, which does give us a little bit more power, I think, gives us a little more access.
Understood. Makes sense. I mean, also just just before we wind up, a little bit broader question. You have built so many companies, raised millions of dollars in venture capital funding. Uh, in your opinion, which industry do you believe right now is the best area to for a founder to start up in, especially in the world of AI?
I think it's the industry that someone has passion about because it it really isn't about a particular avenue or niche. It's really more about discovering a problem that you found that is like, oh, why isn't this better? Like, why do we do it this way? Why is this way? Because it if you go into a business, if you go into a category looking to solve a problem that is just, this is where I was told to go look into because it's a great opportunity, but you don't care about it, like you don't have a personal stake vested in it, like it doesn't mean anything to you, you'll not work at it with the same level of enthusiasm and interest and passion that you would if it came from your heart. So
Mhm.
it's something that innovation, I think, comes out is born out of customer needs and wants. And in most of the cases, the e-commerce that I had, for instance, that was literally driven by a customer of the toy company calling and going, "I can't find your toys because I live in the middle of nowhere. Can I just buy them from you online?" And I was like, "We don't have a store or anything." He's like, "Well, when you get a store set up, let me know. I'll be a customer." And then we got a few more calls like that. And so I was like, I asked a couple guys in the team, what's it going to take to bolt a store on the back end of, our website? And they were like, oh, we could do that. Okay, great, let's do that. So we did that and turned into a thing and started getting calls from other businesses like, hey, can we license your engine? It was like, huh, that's interesting. Why? And they're like, we need a store. You've got a store. We like it. And that's where the business came from. It was something that we needed to do because a customer wanted it. And then we liked it. I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was pretty powerful. And then we built something that we could sell to people and started started doing that.
Great. I think that's quite a wonderful advice to give people in the sense instead of focusing on where the most money is, it's also about focusing on an area where you're also passionate about and where you believe, hey, you know what, there is a problem statement here. I'm passionate about this problem statement. Let me go and help people fix it, so that tomorrow the money will automatically come, because you are doing it not for the money. You're doing it genuinely because you love solving this problem and providing genuine value. So yes.
And and I'll tell you, it doesn't matter who you are or how far along you are or what you've had in success. Running a business, starting a business is hard. And don't let anybody tell you differently. Running a business, starting a business is hard. Starting a business is basically agreeing that you don't know what the heck you're doing. You have no idea how to do it. And even if you've done it 4 or 5 times, you step into the middle of it and you realize, yep, this is all brand new. And it's all about the ability to believe in what you're doing. Do you believe in it? Do you want it? Is there something you really care about? Because we had a co-founder with QSAIC. He was right there with us. He loved what we were doing. About 3 months in, he was like, "This isn't for me. I can't do it." And he left. And it was, it was like, fine. I'm glad we knew now rather than, 2 years later. But it was one of those things that if it doesn't mean something to you, you're going to hate it. And I can promise you, you'll hate waking up, you'll hate going over to your desk, you'll hate working on it because it doesn't mean anything to you. And all you're trying to do is drive towards a goal that has no meaning in your life whatsoever. And that's just a miserable way to work it out. And you gotta want it. You gotta just be like, this is so important because when it's so hard and you're down there and people are rejecting your idea over and over and over again, there's got to be a reason you're standing in there, you know, keep going and keep going when you're being told to stop by everybody, because everybody will tell you to stop. Even your family might come alongside you and go, "What are you doing? Go get a job." Like, you can't, but when you're doing it and you're in there hanging in there, it that's when you found something. Is like you keep pushing.
It takes a lot of conviction, especially when your own family doesn't believe in you. They also, you go for a secure job. Why to take all this risk? Yes, it takes a lot of conviction. I completely agree with that.
100%.
Yes. So perfect, Douglas. Thank you so much for your time. If anybody wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, of course, under linkedin.com/Doug Sapp. That's my profile. That's the easiest place to find me.
Perfect.
You can find our website at
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn.
QUSAIQ.com.
QSAIC,
Yeah,
yes,
and
yes.
then yeah, and then fuelinsights.com as well. There's easy access there for all those.
Perfect. So I'll also be attaching the links in the description so that anybody who is interested in reaching out can always reach Douglas.